Myths are not stories that are untrue. Rather, they are tales that don't fit neatly into the historical record, which serve as a foundation to a culture. This week's tale, written by our good friend Stephen Van Patten, begins at a graveyard in Romania. Ancient headstones worn bare with time, vines climbing over the statues of once great lords, dragging them back into the ground. Here, funerals are supposed to be a celebration of life. But what if the life they're supposed to celebrate was one of hate and rage? When they die, legends say, their souls can travel to a fiery pit, a place of pain and punishment where demons decide how best to torment them. But what happens if a soul is so corrupt that it's actually admired by the demons and devils that haunt this place? Such a person could be brought back as a Strigoi, a seductive, undead being whose only desire is to drink the blood of the living. Yet there are things even worse than a Strigoi. For the very worst of souls, the demons gather and say,
"Let him return, Pricolici."
Scratching, clawing through the earth, rising from his grave, the Pricolici stands in the moonlight and lets out his first howl. It is a low, guttural wail that frightens even the most fearsome predators. A flock of slumbering birds burst from a nearby tree. It sounds like an explosion to the Pricolici's wolf-like ears. He's agitated. He's hungry. His first life was violent, and so shall be his new undead one. He wanders the woods. His desire for slaughter guides him. A consuming thirst runs through his veins. Then memories come. He remembers everything. His execution, the demons arguing over what to do with him, his soul's return. But the thirst pulls him back. He finds a puddle and drinks. The water nauseates him, but he sees his face in the moonlit reflection. He is not Strigoi, like the old tales they told to frighten children. He is something worse and better. Suddenly, in the air, he catches a whiff of something that will slake his thirst. Blood. Away in a clearing is an old man and his grandson herding their flock of sheep. They've lost track of time and now have to move their herd in the pitch dark of night. At least they had the good sense to be carrying lanterns, though such meager light is little protection against the true horrors that come with the setting sun. The sheep, sensing danger, are agitated and alert, darting their gaze from one side of the grassy clearing to the next, ignoring the commands of their shepherds. Suddenly, the sheep begin to run. For a moment, the boy and his grandfather don't know what to do. Do they attempt to round up their flock, or do they make a break for home? Then they hear it, a growl, low and long. It's behind them. They turn. It has the face of a wolf, but stands on two legs, and begins to barrel toward them with glowing red eyes and a slobbering fang-filled maw. "Get back to the house!" the grandfather screams. Frightened, the boy does as his grandfather says, running towards home, while the old man and the bleeding sheep head off in the opposite direction. But being so young, his sense of direction is not yet keen, and in seconds, he's lost. Then, the boy hears the screams of the sheep, followed by his grandfather crying out. But the cry is cut short. The lantern begins to die, and all is silent around him again until the growl comes, so close behind him. He turns, sees the feral eyes, and screams. "Mama!" The boy's eyes open, replacing the vision of the dark woods with the sight of his own bedroom. He's safe in his home. The boy's mother comes rushing in, asking if he's all right. Embarrassed, he realizes it was a nightmare. His mother sits next to him and asks if maybe listening to his grandfather's tales were what brought on this bad dream.
"I believe so, Mama,"
the boy admitted.
"He said that evil dead people sometimes return as Pricolici or Strigoi, and I should be careful in the forest."
Though not terribly pleased with her father for scaring her son, she realized he told him these stories as a way of discouraging him from wandering deep into the woods, where many real wolves roam and hunt. She assures her son that everyone is all right and no Pricolici are lurking about. Then she kisses him on the cheek, tucks him back under his quilt, and leaves the boy to go back to sleep. Despite his mother's comforting words, he still felt troubled, and he lay staring at the ceiling for some time. But then, as he almost drifted off again, he heard a scratching outside his bedroom window. When he turned to see what it was, he saw that in the window, where there shouldn't have been anything but moonlight, was a grinning face. Pale to the point of luminescence, with eyes that glowed red like two coals tossed in the snow. Though the features on the face were soft and inviting, there was something blackish red smeared across the lips and chin. And as the grin grew, the boy gasped. Behind the smile was a mass of long, razor-sharp teeth.
I heard your screams,
The thing whispered.
You're afraid of the Pricolici? You have nothing to fear. I can protect you from the monsters far better than your mother ever could.
The boy sat up slowly, his eyes widening, his entire body quivering.
Just open the window. We can go back to the woods and play and run and skip forever, and you'll never have to be afraid again. Strigoi? I am your friend, the last friend you will ever need, and the only one you will want. And I want to play with you. No!
Lanterns lit up throughout the house. Then his mother, father, and grandfather all burst into his room. Terrified, the boy could only point toward the now empty window and mutter the word again.
Strigoi!
His father tried to brush it off as yet another nightmare, but the child's grandfather spoke up, saying it was unwise to ignore the whispers of Strigoi. So they grabbed their lanterns and scythes and headed outside, circling the house and scanning the surroundings. They found no monster, but just as they were to come inside, the lantern light reflected something thick and dark spreading over the ground. A sheep dead, its throat torn open. They would spend the rest of the night hanging garlic, lighting candles, and praying. And when, at last, dawn saw them safe, the exhausted men visited the cemetery to make sure the dead were staying in their graves. As for the boy, it would be some time before he'd be able to sleep soundly. Until one day, a young woman came by. She was British, the wife of a soldier. Her name was Emily Gerard, and she was writing an essay about the folklore of the area. So they told her about the Strigoi and the Pricolici, and she wrote and wrote. As the sun was setting and their tales were finishing, she thanked them and left. When she got back to England, she would publish the essay, titling it Transylvanian Superstitions, and eventually it would make its way into the hands of a burgeoning horror author, an author named Bram Stoker. And soon, it wouldn't just be Romanian children frightened of these monsters outside their windows at night. Oh, don't worry, bud. You're not gonna become a Pricolici. Jeez, don't sound so disappointed. Though you have lived an oddly violent life. So who knows? I mean, dare to dream. Legendary thanks to patrons Ahmed Ziad Turk and Kyle Murgatroyd.